Thread lifts are trending big time in social media. Welcome to the center. My name is Dr. Babak Azizzadeh. I'm a facial plastic surgeon that specializes in facelifts, facial reanimation, and rhinoplasty, located in Beverly Hills, California. Here, we talk about all things facial plastic surgery. Welcome to the channel. Hi, I'm Dr. Babak Azizzadeh, and today we are going to talk about thread lifts, comparing them to facelifts, and really giving you all the pros and cons to both, and debunking some of the myths that surrounds thread lifts. So before we start talking about thread lifts and facelifts, we got to talk about the aging process. So the aging process involves several factors. Historically, everyone knows about laxity and loose skin. That's been always what everyone talks about jowling and the neck having loose skin. But it's much more complicated than that. We also get skin texture changes. We get elasticity changes, which is kind of gives us this youthfulness. We also lose a tremendous amount of volume in our face by both losing fat compartments and our bones resorb. In the neck, kind of the opposite happens. We tend to get our glands falling down and getting actually excess fat accumulating underneath the muscles of the neck. So as you could see, this is a super complicated three-dimensional, multiple layers of the face that are being impacted. So can thread lifting or almost anything alone address all of these changes to give us the best possible youthful outcome? So the basics of thread lifts is as follows. A suture that has little barbs on it is entered in the face and taken up in various layers to lift the face without going into the deeper tissues. The theory is that by doing the sutures, it's minimally invasive, relatively low risk, and obtains a lift that you can get with a facelift. That's the theory. But that's not actually what happens. Unfortunately, the anatomy and true facial tissues, and really the physics of the face, if we're going to go into details, doesn't allow true repositioning and lifting without the tissues being undermined surgically. So thread lifts, in theory, are really exciting, but in reality, it doesn't work that way. It oftentimes gives very rippled effect, gives very short-term results, and even though it's supposed to be as a minimally invasive, it's deep into the tissues without any visibility, and it could cause nerve damage and other structural infections and scar tissue formations that's actually can cause a lot of problems. The other factor is that really no one procedure can address the aging process as a whole and holistically. For us to get authentic, natural results, that what I call like undetectable results, you have to address all factors of the aging process, including sagging, including volume loss, including excessive neck, and we got to do this in a harmonious manner, because if the face looks up, the neck looks down, it actually creates a worse outcome. If your eyes aren't done and your face and neck are done, it creates an unbalanced appearance. So to get the most natural and best results, you have to address the face and neck in a harmonious way, in balance. And that's why thread lifts, even though they actually don't work, in theory, they don't really give us the results that we're looking for. What's the difference now between a thread lift and a facelift? Now, there are many different types of facelifts, and facelifts need to be done by specialists because the facelift is a very specialized procedure. The concept of a facelift and neck lifts is to use the deeper tissue layers of the face to reposition the facial tissues back to where they were 10, 15 years ago. Also at the same time, because you're in the areas, we can modify the buccal fat pad, which is very involved in this kind of jowling. We can angle the jawline. We can create a nicer neck contour where we don't have all this redundancy and pleating and excessive volume in the neck. So it gives us a lot of flexibility, but it does require someone to be an expert in it because it is more involved than a thread lift or some of the other procedures. But it does give us a tremendous amount of outcome, and when done and performed well, it really gives you the best possible results. The other advantage of facelifts and neck lifts when it's done correctly, and I like to use the deep plane facelift approach and the deep neck approach, they last a long time. I just saw a patient 15 years ago, I did their facelift, and now they're back. They look natural, they look great. They did their surgery when they were 46, now she's 61, and she looks just amazing. But she wants to look kind of phenomenal again. And that's the advantage. It lasts a long time. But you do need to think about adjunctive procedures. Sometimes we add a little bit of fat to give volume and three-dimensional aesthetics. Sometimes we have to do the eyes and the eyebrows. Sometimes we got to do lip lifts. Sometimes we have to do laser resurfacing. To get the best results, this is an artwork. So your surgeon and you need to talk about what your goals are to get the best results. So there's no utopia. There are some downsides to a facelift. So what are the, I would say, three main downsides? Number one, it needs to be done by a super expert because there are high risks with surgical procedures. Risk of infection, bleeding, nerve injuries. Those are possibilities, but permanent and long-term issues with facelifts under the hands of phenomenal surgeons, very, very, very low risk, high reward. That's the first thing. The second thing is there is more cost to it. Facelifts in the hands of the super expert can be expensive. So that's something for you to think about. The third factor is the recovery time. So there is more of a recovery time with facelifts and neck lifts than non-invasive, non-surgical procedures. Now, that downtime doesn't mean if you add it up over a 15 to 20 year period of time, if your recovery is 2 weeks, it's worth it because you're getting such a long outcome from these surgeries that those extra few days of recovery really makes a huge impact. So in summary, I do not really love thread lifts. And just because a procedure or a technique is termed non-invasive and it's inexpensive, it doesn't mean you should do that to your face. No amount of time or money or effort is worth honestly doing anything that will impact you negatively. I do believe facelifts, deep plane facelifts, deep neck lifts, facial rejuvenation is, for the appropriate individual, a phenomenal option when performed by an expert surgeon. So overall, I would say talk to physicians that are expert in this field and get a little bit more overall understanding. But the information overload unfortunately can confuse people. So hopefully this tutorial of sorts will clarify some of the issues at hand, and I wish you all the best. Please subscribe to our channel, leave comments. If there's any topics that you're interested in, I'm always happy and encouraged to talk about them, so please leave those in the comment section.